If you would like to watch this video in high definition, please visit JVonD.com. Thanks.
Hello, welcome to my tutorial. Today I'm going to be talking about Berzerk. Yeah, it should be cool. Right now we're looking at my live jamming setup, which is not much to look at here. I'm kind of super anal. So, I mean, you scroll down and there's barely anything there. That's because everything's kind of closed up, nice and tidy. I'm going to actually work on the space to the right. What I'm going to do is add a combinator here. I'm kind of going about it the long way, because you could just drag your combinator over into the space and have it just pop up, but I'm doing it this way. So I got the Kong. I'm going to play some drums here. I'm going to shut this so it's a little bit more tidy here for now. And I have the VST plugin here, the Berzerk by Waves, and I have the alligator down below. The alligator is really cool, but I'm going to use it in bypass mode for now. So I'll just minimize that so it's not really in the perspective here. This tutorial is mainly to set up some drum loops that I'm going to be putting into my Octatrack to go along, to play along with my Reason Live setup. So if you notice here, I'm actually doing my vocals through this channel 1. So if it's ready to go, I'll give you an example.
Hello, this is my vocal channel. I have an effects part of it, and if I turn this knob,
If I turn the number 1 knob, pardon me, on the mod panel 12 up here, you can see that I'm actually turning the knob, and when I turn that knob, it'll go to clean, so I can either have the
effects on, or I can
have the clean on at any time, and I have, my drum beat, my drummer playing here, so I can kind of compare what I'm going to be programming for the Octatrack and the live sound. So I'm going to open up my Berzerk here, and if I just bypass the Berzerk for now, I think just the regular old drum kit here, and then I can enable the Berzerk. I'm just making sure everything's running because I don't really have it set up this way. If you want to keep your plugin open at all times, you can select that keep open option on the VST plugin that you're using, because I've used a couple other ones too, like the IM Pusher. Waves has some pretty good stuff. Now, I don't really recommend using the Waves during the live performance, just because there's like load time that like really kind of jacks with my setup. So I can't I can't be jamming and wait for the activation process of the plugin that Waves does, and in certain circumstances that might actually cause more of a bottleneck to get the combinators to open on time. But I do really like using the Waves plugins. They are top notch, that's for sure. So here's the Berzerk. Now if we take a listen to it, it's a little more grungy, but when you have like a decayed sub bass line, check this out. So right there you can hear a dramatic difference for sure. So we're going to play around with this a little bit. So if I just fire up the record button here and bring that beat in, I'm just going to lay down a track here real quick. Let's see. idea of this. So I think I was gonna do this a little differently, but when I open up the sequencer here to find my notes, I think I wanted that clap sound, which was right there. So I'm gonna actually highlight these, drag them up. Oh, wrong one. Duh. Oh, I want to keep my sub bass. I just want to change these here. So I'm going to mess with the Berzerk drive here a little bit. You can hear the difference there. It's like crazy different, right? Just by that one drive button. Now look at all this other stuff. If you crank up the density knob, it gives those little like high-end artifacts. Those artifacts I don't really like on some of the higher drums. And I'm not even mixed all the way. If I mix this all the way, check it out. It gets even crazier sounding. So on some of the higher sounds, like the clap and the hi-hats, having those like density high artifacts coming in, like, doesn't really sound all that good. Unless you really want the Aphex Twin style sound. But then we can try a different character. There's like a bunch of different characters you can do. You know, the crushed ones, like really badass. But some of these are like just too extreme for the most part. But I noticed like if you chill out on the drive, you can often get like really good sounds out of it. That's pretty badass. You can bring the temperature down, which I think it takes away from like, it kind of kills the sub bass or the low end of the sound. If I crank up the temperature, it'll kind of bring that back. Let's go to something else here. So much different now that we're in the buzzed off of the crunched, or the, what is it? Yeah, the crushed. That one's awesome. Now if I bring up the density a little bit on the buzz, it's like super badass. Right now I have this like dynamic thing, this character thing going on. There's a couple different ways you can like set this up. And basically like you can have the dynamics or the rider, which the rider's kind of cool too. You can kind of set like where you want the Berzerk effect to really affect the sound. You can tell what it's doing in the wave. So if we go back to that crushed one, we can probably hear it a lot more. So now you get the idea of how that threshold works. Like the beginning of the sub bass, you can't even hear it kicking in. So just come down in the mix a little bit, so you can hear the sub when the sub bass kicks in, and then you can hear when the Berzerk kicks in. It's pretty cool. So if we go up the threshold a little bit here, we'll hear more of that sub bass coming in. Now it's all the same. So I go back to dynamics. It's super badass, right? Let's see if I can really tweak it. turned it on trippy mode. So this feedback area is really cool. You can like really have it do some like crazy sounding stuff. So you get the idea. So now I can kind of compare like what this is gonna sound like with my live kit. So you can tell it's really gonna change the entire environment of the sonic space now using this processor. It's nice too, it's got an EQ you can mess with. So I know a lot of like one of the things that I try and do, especially with the new Beatomatic, is really be conscious of like mastering the sound before you put it into the sampler, because a lot of my old stuff, I wasn't really good at mastering music before, but now I'm getting much better. And what I used to do is I used to have all my modules, but then I had a DJ mixer which had an EQ, so I could actually go and EQ each one individually. But now with the new Beatomatic, I don't have a DJ mixer anymore, so I basically have to have like this multitude of voices all mixed together and mixed and EQ'd precisely before I perform. So it's very important now. It's like, so I got two lightsaber synthesizers and backing tracks, my guitar, my vocal processor, my sub bass channel, and my drums, my drummer. So you get the idea. So now it's like really important to have like these EQs inside the effect. It's awesome. And that's what I like a lot about the new Reason effects, like, or the instruments like the Europa, for example, and the grain. If I go back over to the other side here and open up one of my lightsabers, you'll see that the deep blue is actually the grain effect, and down below in the lower right, it has its own EQ. So it's like really important to me, so I don't have to add another one later. Like the old ones, like the Maelstrom, doesn't have really an EQ, and it's got really dynamic filters. So that's this one we're listening to here. So sometimes it's kind of hard to be able to make this, Red Book CD spec quality sounding if you don't have the EQ. So sometimes I will combine the synthesizer with an alligator, and then that'll kind of give me a little bit of an EQ option. I can the alligator is a multi-filter effect. So you can actually have certain filtered EQ areas and adjust the volumes there, or you can adjust the volume of that area of the EQ being affected over on the right side, and then have a dry mix come in too. So it's really nice to have that. But again, we're talking about EQing and how nice it is to have these new effects like the Berzerk have that EQ section in there. So but yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to show. I'm gonna actually do some crazy vocal processing too. for samples. We can add another one here if I just I can mute this here and I'll add another one. Let me just drag the combinator over and see if it loads up. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That thing's already got something playing. This one's got a the Dr. Octarex in it, so that's what was making that noise right there. Let me and it's got the Berzerk. Let me open up this Berzerk here, and we got that alligator all nicely bypassed, but I'll bring that in here in a second. I just wanted to bring the volume down a little bit so it's not blasting you here. So now we're listening to this sample. If I take the mix down, we'll be able to hear that. I think before I was... Here's a sample. Let me go back. I was really messing with the percussion stuff with the let me see, Dr. Rex percussion loops. If I take like the tabla or something, let's see if I can what I can do with this. You can click here and scroll through them fast. It is very dynamic, this effect, so you gotta be careful when you're switching stuff. There's this go button too, which it'll scroll through some like weird artifact stuff you can put like in the waves. If I hit go, you'll see how the wave pattern changes a little bit. So there's my drums. So if I don't want it to be too crazy, I'll bring the density down. It'll get rid of those high-end artifacts. Bring the drive down, maybe bring some of the mix out. But once we start messing with this stuff, there's this really cool sine wave thing too that you can try. A lot of times it's nice to put like one of these effects on it and then pull back on the level and blend, and it'll kind of let it sit in the back of the sound and kind of just make a nice added thing. If you notice, I got the dynamics going down opposite of the last one. If I flip it to up, let's see what happens here. So it's really nice to use this and just add a little character to your sound. I really like it. There's other settings. I mean, I haven't even like messed with this thing, which I don't even know what the hell this stuff does. And the pitch one's cool because you can have it like scroll through different pitch levels instead of doing the frequency ranges, which is kind of neat. But I usually don't use that. I usually like have these kind of low just to give like a background rumble. I don't really know too much about the high pass low pass filters and how they affect it much, but they do stuff. The internal external button here, I don't really know much about that. The HD button, this stuff up here, you can have like stereo, mono, or I don't really know what some of this stuff does, but if you're over here, it enables this input S thing, whatever the hell that is. I don't know. You just gotta play around, find some cool stuff. Let's scroll through some of these characters. So now you can hear all that kind of like that sound gets kind of annoying, so we can pull that out, leave it in the back end, and it really makes all the other sound really nice. So it's kind of still there, it just gives a little bit of body to it, which is kind of cool. And again, it's got the EQ. Right now I have the low end cranked, but you can hear I can pull that out nicely pull out that low end there and just have a nice. So you can hear my drums still in there, but you know, I'm kind of comparing what the Octatrack is going to sound like with this. So if I have like a drum beat and then the percussion here on the Octatrack, kind of hear it here. Let's hear. Effects on it. You can hear how trippy it's starting to get. Add the density of the percussion. Crushed. Let's crush the crap out of it. Do a little filter thing over here. Now, let's take the alligator and turn it on here. Can mute those drones really quick. Filter envelope, adjusting, amp envelope. So now it's like completely different, right? So now we can go over to the alligator patches and scroll through and see if we find anything crazy. Let's see how cool it is. So I'm already liking some of this stuff. Put the alligator on the main beat now. Check this out. This gets really cool. Almost gives it a delay effect. So, you get the idea. Hope you like that tutorial here. And please stop by JVonD.com. Say hi in the chat room. And we will see you on
Electronic Jam Night
once a month on JVonD Radio. So, take it easy. And, yeah, party down.